Several airports in North India, including Leh, Jammu, Srinagar and Dharamshala and Amritsar, closed. Air India, Indigo and SpiceJet cancelled flights to several destinations.
No, it's a shame. We just heard about it just as we were walking in the doors of the Oval. Just heard about it. I guess people knew something was going to happen based on.
US President Donald Trump reacts to India's precision strike, says the US knew something was going to happen and he hopes it ends very quickly.
U.S. Secretary of State Marco Rubio says he is monitoring the situation closely after India's National Security Advisor Ajit Doval briefed him about India's precision strikes.
ये नुकसान ये 9 नंबर
All right, let's just bring you up to speed with all that's happened overnight. 15 days after the dastardly terror attack in Jammu and Kashmir's Pahalgam, in which 26 innocent civilians were killed, India strikes back. Indian armed forces have hit back, targeting terror camps in Pakistan-occupied Kashmir and Pakistan's Punjab province as well.
According to a statement released by the Government of India, altogether 9 sites have been targeted. No Pakistani military facilities have been targeted, and India says its actions have been focused, measured and non-escalatory in nature. The country, in a strong message to Pakistan, said it is living up to the commitment that those responsible for the attack will be held accountable. Now, Pakistan did react to the strikes, with Prime Minister Shehbaz Sharif saying that the country has every right to give a befitting reply to what it called an act of war. Now, of course, we did see the violation of ceasefire where 3 innocent civilians were killed just hours before. Meanwhile, U.S. President Donald Trump has also called the strikes shameful and outlining that the two countries has been fighting for a very long time, and he expressed hope that it does end soon. All right, to discuss more, we're now being joined by Lieutenant Colonel Daniel L. Davis. He is a military expert and host of Daniel Davis Deep Dive on YouTube. Thank you so much for joining us today. Now, of course, we know that, you're up to date with all the developments that are coming in. First of all, your reaction to it.
Well, I think it's really concerning. Anytime you have 2 nuclear powers that are having conventional clashes, and you know, this is by far the biggest military clash that the two sides have had since 2019, and the concern is that there's more to come, because the very strong language used by the Pakistan side saying that they consider this an act of war and that they would respond at a time and place of their choosing. And of course, they're claiming that all of the claims by the Indian side are untrue. They said they had nothing to do with the terrorist attack, and they had nothing, and these places were hit were not terror camps, but they were civilian camps, at least according to what they're saying, that this was all, you know, completely wrong to do for the Indian side. So they may take even stronger steps afterwards. India, for its part, said that they thought it was a measured and a responsible response based on what this terrorist attack happened on the 26th. But, you know, it's in the eye of the beholder, because now then you have on the Pakistani side doesn't think that it was reasonable or measured. And what happens next is going to be really, really telling, because it depends on what Pakistan or India will do in response to that. So this is a very, very tense situation, which could escalate a lot. So I certainly agree with the President of the United States. This needs to get tamped down quickly.
Absolutely. Now, we have seen that in the response to India striking back to the dastardly Pahalgam terror attack that happened on the 22nd of April, India has shown considerable restraint. It's been amazing how, with precision strikes that we've seen overnight. On the other side, that we've seen Pakistani forces, we're talking about forces, not terrorists, not terror infrastructure, we're talking about Pakistani forces, which have engaged in firing across the LOC and targeting civilians. Now, this has to say something about how things are panning out and the responses from both sides of the border that we're seeing.
Well, it certainly does. And again, it depends on which side of the line of contact that you're on, because each side is presenting itself as this version of things, which makes its side look like the right one. And gosh, I mean, there's truth is probably somewhere in between. But when you get emotions up like this, and especially on a situation like this, where there's a long history of antagonism and a lot of disagreements and disputes about what needs to happen, and one side doesn't have any trust in the other, they don't believe when they're told one thing on the other side. What is critically important is that this gets resolved diplomatically, that we don't escalate further, and that more innocent civilians on either side of the line get killed. Because when you're talking about a situation where nuclear weapons are in the arsenal of both sides, you can never take for granted that they're not going to be used. And so I think that the stakes are extremely high here, higher than maybe it's been at any time, maybe in the whole experience of this whole conflict, because what could be coming next? That's the big unknown.
And knowing that, and the terror strikes that India did conduct, they were all on terror targets, which was extremely precision. It was pretty much decided where it was going to attack. And as my colleague Jasim said, when it comes to the Pakistan side, they have been targeting the civilian infrastructure as well.
Well, they have, and of course, the Pakistani side doesn't agree with that assessment. They said that no, they weren't terrorist attacks, and I'm not in a position to be able to say authoritatively who's right or who's wrong. I just know that the stories being told by each side is very different, and it's just I can't overemphasize when emotions like this and strong nationalistic tendencies are at play here. It's even more important than normal to try and to say, all right, let's take some time here. Let's let some time go on, do some investigations. Let's authoritatively confirm what is and what isn't a terrorist situation. And if there are any ties from the Pakistani government to that terrible, slaughter that happened in April, then by all means, that needs to be addressed and people need to be held accountable. But we can't get to a situation, or at least the two parties need to make sure they don't get into a situation that escalates to even more innocent civilians on either side get killed, because that would be bad for everybody.
Right. Now, Lieutenant Colonel Davis, I also want to understand, of course, we need to talk about the role of the United States, the approach that it will take. Some of the early reactions that we have seen has in fact come from the United States, of course, as and when the world wakes up, the reactions will start pouring in. I just want to understand, what do you think is going to be the U.S. administration's approach to this issue?
Well, I think the administration, at least so far from what they've said, is very similar to what I'm saying right now, is that we have good relations with both Pakistan and India, and obviously we've been improving our relations with India for quite some time. So that's very valuable, and so I'm sure that President Trump is very keen to be able to balance the situation. And you heard Secretary of State Rubio said that he talked to both his counterparts on both sides of this line to try and say, hey, let's come to some kind of reasonable understanding. Let's de-escalate the situation here. Let some time pass so that there's not an immediate response. And I think that the ball's kind of in the Pakistan side right now, because they're the next one that they've claimed that they're going to do something. And this is a time where I think patience is definitely the call for. And I hope that Secretary of State is really trying to use his influence to say, don't do anything rash or do anything soon. Let's make sure some time and give people a chance to have their rational situation here before anything gets more out of hand.
All right. Of course, at this point, I would also like to bring in our special correspondent Idris, who's there in Srinagar and has been tracking all this since the wee hours. We heard you say, Idris, that you heard the jets flying over in space, over in air. Now, several airports have been, of course, closed in Jammu and Srinagar and Leh. What is the latest that you can bring in right now, and what kind of situation is there on ground?
Well, people have just started coming out of their homes, and we can see a lot of tension on their faces. The schools very close to the line of control, especially in the northern part of Kashmir, in Baramulla, Kupwara, Handwara, Bandipora, have been closed for today, while as in Jammu division also the schools that are in the Ramban, Poonch, Rajouri sector have also been shut down for at least today and tomorrow. We are also being told that the escalation on the line of control and the international border continues. We've heard from Kupwara's Karna sector, where there has been continuous ceasefire violation from the Pakistani side, which has been retaliated. But this time Pakistan is not only targeting the Indian Army's posts and bunkers, but also the civilian population. We've seen 3 people have been killed in the ceasefire violation in the Poonch sector of Jammu division. While as if we talk about the northern part of Kashmir in Kupwara, there have been multiple houses which have been completely damaged due to the shelling that has taken place from the other side. We've seen that Indian Army has been retaliating at every place, but this seems to be Pakistan's first reaction to the Indian Armed Forces action that was precisely made on the 9 installations belonging to the terrorist groups. But if we talk about the whole Kashmir division right now, there's a lot of tension. Srinagar airport, Jammu airport, Leh airport, as well as some of the airports in North India have been shut for today. We are being also told that the Srinagar airport has been taken over by the Indian Air Force and for the next 24 hours. So we'll have to wait and watch how the situation basically pans out. At the moment, a lot of tension. People, especially living very close to the line of control, are moving out. We've seen a lot of evacuation being done in those areas, and a lot of people on their own are also moving out who are very close to the line of control. Security forces during the night also did prevent them, basically by taking them to the bunkers, individual bunkers that were created before 2021 when the ceasefire agreement was renewed between the two countries. But we've seen in the last 13 days there have been continuous ceasefire violations every single night at multiple locations across the line of control. But today they've not only basically done the ceasefire violation with small arms, but they've shifted to bigger artillery as well.
Absolutely, Idris. Now, of course, I'm sure a lot of the people in the region are still coming to terms with what has happened overnight. You've been getting us all the developments since Operation Sindoor was launched. I just wanted to understand if you've been able to have any conversations with the people on ground there. What sort of reactions are coming in from the region?
Well, Haim, the operation started at around 1 o'clock. That is when in Srinagar, where I live very close to the airport, and I could hear the sounds of the jets as well as the fighter jets all over the Kashmir division. That was one of the reasons that people across the Kashmir division were awake at the time when this all was happening. So that was the brief period of around 45 minutes when there was only noise of the aircrafts all around Srinagar city, and that was the time this whole operation was carried out by the security forces. In the morning hours, when people started actually coming out, we got the information from the government authorities that one by one they've started closing the schools, especially which are close to the line of control, those districts starting from there. And now we've also heard that the schools in Srinagar city, which are very close to the airport, have also been shut for today. So slowly people are getting to know about it. But at the moment, as you see, there is zero traffic on the ground. People are not coming out at all as usual. They used to come. This is the time when schools open and the school buses are out on the roads. But today we are seeing very less motion outside on the streets of Srinagar, because people definitely knew that something is happening during the night because of the noise, because of the jets hovering around Srinagar city. We also saw after around 5 hours after the operation, around 5:30 in the morning, there were some moments, aerial moments of the helicopters. We did see some army helicopters moving at that point of time again, but maybe they were basically rescue operation that was carrying the civilians that were basically injured during the ceasefire violations in different areas.
Right, Idris, of course, thank you so much for staying there and, of course, giving us the latest from the ground. Let me just go back to our guest now. As you saw, Mr. Davis, that we have our reporter on ground looking at the situation that seems to be tense. And now, I want your perspective on how this will play out globally, or what kind of impact do you see happening if this sort of escalates, and what kind of response will U.S. have on that?
Well, I think you can't really separate it from what's going on in the Russia-Ukraine war, in the potential for war with Iran, because Russia and China are both involved with that. China obviously has a lot of interest in what happens with India. They have interaction with Pakistan as well. So there's a lot of interest on this from all the quarters. And the United States clearly has an interest in this because India is one of our biggest trading partners and one of our biggest democracy powers as well, and partners in the world. So, I mean, you have people, really all different kinds of governments and entities all over the world that have a lot of interest in seeing this not escalate. And I think it makes a lot of people really nervous. You can't get away from it when you're talking about two nuclear powers. And that's something that everybody's trying to keep a lid on. There's always this concern about the Russia-Ukraine war could possibly escalate into nuclear confrontation. You don't want to have a situation to where the NATO bloc in Russia have an issue like that, and certainly not Pakistan and India. Because if any nuclear threshold gets crossed anywhere, then the risk and the potential for it to get crossed elsewhere will continue to rise, and it'll just make people really, really scared about what happens, and for good reason. I mean, obviously, we haven't had any nuclear military use of a nuclear weapon since 1945, and once that genie gets out of that bottle, it's real, frankly, just bad news for all of the world. So everybody has an interest in keeping this from escalating, and that's why I think that you're going to see the leaders in Beijing, you're going to see leaders in Washington, in Europe, really, I think from all over the world, counseling both sides to take some time, let some of the emotions cool before taking any action. And as I said earlier, really the ball's kind of in Pakistan's court right now, because they are claiming that they're going to have a retaliation befitting to what happened here. And this is a time, even if they feel like they have to do something, the more time passes, the better it is, and the more likely people are to take rational decisions that won't escalate this. That is the crucial thing. Whatever disputes have, they need to be discussed on a political and diplomatic level, not on the battlefield, because if that starts escalating, it can just get out of control quickly.
All right. Now, we also are being joined by our Assistant Editor for Foreign Affairs, Siddhant Sibbal, who's joining us live from New Delhi. Siddhant, thank you so much for joining us again. Siddhant, we are also, of course, expecting that all-important briefing that's scheduled for 10 a.m. Siddhant, what are some of the things that we can expect from that? It really will set the tone for how the coming few days are going to look like and how things will pan out between India and Pakistan. Of course, largely all of that depends on what the response from the other side is going to be. But still, it will set the tone for what's to come. What can you tell us?
Well, essentially, we know that the briefing takes place at 10 a.m. Local time here in Delhi, and it will be a joint briefing by the MEA and the military. And we know the focus, of course, is to send a message to the international community as to how India is targeting the terror camps. In fact, I have been getting details which has just come in that India has made strikes at the Jaish-e-Mohammed and Lashkar-e-Toiba's terror camps in Bahawalpur, in Muridke. These were the centers essentially of the terror camps, as India has been saying. It's a big move by India, and this time the strikes are just not limited to few pockets in Pakistan occupied Kashmir. These are strikes deep in Pakistani Punjab. That is hugely significant, and this is something that the world will be closely watching. We know that so far the American comments have poured in. The US President Donald Trump has made his remarks. We also know that the US top diplomat Marco Rubio has spoken to the Indian NSA and the Pakistani NSA and called for de-escalation. But it is given that at some point there will be strikes by the Pakistani side, and this is something that will be closely watched. But all in all, at the 10 a.m. briefing, more details will be given as to how India led this target, an important development, an expected development from the Indian side.
Right, it's very interesting because just a day ago we were thinking about how the mock drills are supposed to happen in several states of India and several districts in Delhi itself. And I mean, it's kind of, we don't know if we should say that, but it kind of developed really fast, the whole escalation. But what is the update on that part, if you could tell us? And what is the reaction on ground from the heart of India?
You know, these strikes have put the entire essentially plans for the day in a lot of changes. In fact, today was the day here in Delhi where there were mock drills planned, nationwide mock drills, but also here in Delhi, but also briefings by the Indian Trade Minister on the India-UK FTA being concluded. It was expected to happen at 9 a.m. So there were a lot of pressers. In fact, there was another important event by the Russian side, the Russian embassy, to pay homage to Biju Patnaik because he played an important role in the Battle of Stalingrad. But it now looks everything is in a state of suspension or perhaps has been deferred. We are waiting for official word because it was a long night and officials were awake all night. And now, of course, we know that focus will be as to how to deal with the aftermath of these strikes, because there's a lot of inflammatory commentary coming from the Pakistani side currently, and all eyes will be on what will be the next move by the Pakistani side. Will it engages in escalation or it will de-escalate, as is something that Washington has been calling for.
Right. Now, Siddhant, you spoke about the inflammatory messaging and the statements that are coming out of Pakistan. Nothing new there. Lieutenant Colonel Daniel L. Davis, I'd like to come to you on that as well. Even in the lead up to what happened in Pahalgam, we saw the inflammatory statements that came from the Chief of Army Staff of Pakistan, Asim Munir. In the aftermath of the Pahalgam terror attack as well, we saw that Pakistan was unwilling to back down. We saw inflammatory statements and comments come from its leadership. Even right now, we've seen ceasefire violations for 12 nights. Last night, this morning, or perhaps would have been the 13th night. Of course, India has given a resolute response to Pakistan on that front. That being said, it does appear to be a battle of narrative as well. We saw yesterday that Pakistan was trying to put forth a narrative in the UNSC, which was completely rejected. It was fully grilled on the questions with regards to the involvement of the LET in the Pahalgam terror attack as well. What do you have to say on that?
Well, that's you put it perfectly. It's a battle of narratives because especially in the international community, who is not steeped in the day-to-day operations of these things, they only have the narratives, and they hear the Pakistan side say, we had nothing to do with that April terrorist attack that happened in Kashmir. We didn't do anything about this. These aren't terrorist training grounds that the Indian side hit. And then they hear the Indian side saying, no, they were definitely terrorist attacks. There were violations on the ceasefire for, as you say, 12 straight nights. These things have to be accounted. And most of the globe, especially in the United States, honestly, they're not tracking these kind of things. So they don't know who to believe here. All they know is that there were 26 people that were just brutally murdered there in April. And now they say more people have been killed in the responses here. And the concern is that yet more people could be killed in the Pakistani response. And so the West, who's not tied into this as emotionally as obviously either the Pakistan or the Indian side is, they're saying, let's just calm down and let's just take this easy. And that's really easy to say from the outside. I totally concede that. But that is probably what is necessary the most so that maybe cooler heads can prevail. And then we can ascertain what is the truth, who was responsible for what, and who needs to be held accountable for these kinds of, any kind of violations, that especially those that led to the loss of life.
All right, well, thank you so much, Lieutenant Colonel Daniel Davis, for joining us and giving your perspective on that.
A pleasure.
All right, well, of course, we've been tracking everything that has been going on since the wee hours of the morning today, with Operation Sindoor taking place, where Indian Armed Forces launched the Operation Sindoor, hitting terrorist infrastructure in Pakistan and Pakistan-occupied Jammu and Kashmir.
Right.
Former terrorist attack against India have been planned and directed. They were terrorist infrastructure that were attacked by India.
Absolutely. Indian armed forces have hit back a rather resolute and restrained military operation. India has given a resolute response to Pakistan, targeting terror camps in Pakistan-occupied Kashmir and Pakistan's Punjab province. According to Indian sources, a total of 9 terror sites were targeted in the overnight precision strikes under the codename Operation Sindoor, as Jyotsna just mentioned. In a coordinated strike by the Indian Army and the Air Force, terrorist groups Lashkar-e-Toiba and Jaish-e-Mohammed's bases were hit in Pakistan and Pakistan-occupied Jammu and Kashmir. We've been bringing you the latest on this, and we'll keep bringing you all the developments as and when they come in.
ये नुकसान ये 9 नंबर
Talking the future of finance.
Dive into the world of tokenization with me
as we yield the power of tokenization.
Discover the future of
ownership, where I decode, demystify tokenization for you.
empowering the tokenized revolution.
Get ready to dive for
an in-depth look at tokenization.
Busting the myths around tokenization.
Catch me on Token Money Magnet.
Token Money Magnet.
Token Money Magnet.
Token Money Magnet.
Token Money Magnet only on WION.
The stress of our world can take a toll on our physical and emotional health. Here, in New York's Catskill Mountains, lies a luxurious place of healing called WION Wellness Center. The WION Wellness Center provides 500,000 square feet of natural methods to manage diabetes, hypertension, chronic pain, obesity, depression, anxiety, and other conditions. We use the traditions of centuries-old natural science from India, yoga, Ayurveda, acupuncture, and naturopathy in personalized programs that help you take charge of your own health. A minimum 5-day stay is recommended for best results. Book now at yo1.com.
From the bustling trading floors of Wall Street to the vibrant exchanges of Asian stock markets, WION breaks it down for you to make sense of what's happening, as we reveal the key factors behind events, strategic battles, and the game-changing business decisions that shape the world. We bring you all of this and more on World Business Watch.
WION Health Resort is unique, the only one of its kind. Experience the 4 paths of natural wellness: yoga, Ayurveda, acupuncture, and naturopathy. Each uniquely customized program improves the whole person to make every person whole. Come to WION Health Resort. Make your reservation at yo1.com.
To bring the benefits of the Subhash Chandra Show to your educational institution, teachers and students, send an invitation to Juhi Jha at juhi@such.org.in.
And welcome back. You're watching WION World is One. I'm Jyotsna. Let's take a look at all the headlines from today morning. India launches Operation Sindoor, strikes 9 terrorist sites in Pakistan and Pakistan-occupied Kashmir, where attacks against India had been planned and directed. Sources say Indian armed forces reportedly targeted headquarters of banned terror groups Jaish-e-Mohammed and Lashkar-e-Taiba in a series of precision strikes. Defense Minister Rajnath Singh talks to chiefs of all 3 armed forces on phone. Cabinet Committee on Security to meet later in the day. At least 3 civilians killed in Jammu and Kashmir as Pakistan Army violates ceasefire again, resorts to shelling and firing along the line of control and international border. Indian Army says it is responding in proportionate manner. Several airports in North India, including Leh, Jammu, Srinagar and Dharamshala, as well as Amritsar, closed. Air India, Indigo and SpiceJet cancelled flights to several destinations. White House says U.S. Secretary of State Marco Rubio spoke to his counterparts from India and Pakistan and encouraged both sides to engage in discussions to settle the escalating military confrontation. Rehearsal for civil defense drills underway in several places. The emergency drills, that is the first since 1971, will be conducted by most states later today.
ये नुकसान ये 9 नंबर
Well, top news today. India has hit back at Pakistan, hitting 9 terrorist sites in Pakistan and Pakistan-occupied Kashmir, targeting terrorist infrastructure there. Pakistani troops did resort to sharp escalation in ceasefire violations along the line of control. After that, what you see on your screen are the terror camps that was hit by India, Muzaffarabad in Punjab-occupied Kashmir. And of course, the Operation Sindoor is the one that India has taken against Pakistan. This comes after the Pahalgam attack that killed 26 civilians. India did say that it has targeted these 9 targets in Pakistan, Jammu and Kashmir. These are terrorist infrastructure. India's defense minister spoke to armed forces chief. That is the latest that we know as of now. This comes in the wee hours of today. The India launches Operation Sindoor. 9 right after that, Indian armed forces reportedly targeted headquarters that are banned terror groups that Jaish-e-Mohammed and Lashkar-e-Taiba in a series of precision strikes. Now, Defense Minister Rajnath Singh did also talk to all the chiefs of the 3 armed forces on phone. And then this is, of course, going to come as the Cabinet Committee on Security is going to be meeting later in the day. Meanwhile, several airports in North India that include Leh, Jammu, Srinagar, Dharamshala and Amritsar have been closed. Meanwhile, Air India, Indigo and SpiceJet have cancelled flights to several destinations. Meanwhile, the White House has also responded to these attacks, these strikes that India conducted against terror targets. U.S. Secretary of State Marco Rubio did speak to his counterparts from India and Pakistan and encouraged both sides to engage in the discussions to settle the escalating matter. Now, while the small arms of fire had been witnessed regularly in the wake of the Pahalgam terror attack, now Wednesday night also saw heavy artillery fire from the Pakistani side. Now, 3 civilians have been killed in those regions. And of course, this comes hours after India hit 9 sites in Pakistan and Pakistan-occupied Kashmir. Now, developments have been coming in minutes now. Of course, to give us a brief of what happened and how it all developed, my colleague Kim Korsoya is going to bring you the latest.
Now, 15 days after the terror attack in Jammu and Kashmir's Pahalgam, in which 26 innocent civilians were killed, Indian armed forces have hit back, targeting terror camps in Pakistan-occupied Kashmir and Pakistan's Punjab province. According to Indian sources, a total of 9 terror sites were targeted in the overnight precision strikes under the codename Operation Sindoor. In a coordinated strike by Indian Army and the Indian Air Force, terrorist groups Lashkar-e-Toiba and Jaish-e-Mohammed's bases were hit in Pakistan and Pakistan-occupied Jammu and Kashmir. Sources said Indian Prime Minister Narendra Modi himself was monitoring the operation throughout the night. Pakistan's DGISPR said that India struck 6 sites in Kotli, Muridke, Bahawalpur and Muzaffarabad. Later, Pakistani Prime Minister Shehbaz Sharif confirmed that India conducted military strikes in the Pakistani territories. US President Trump also reacted to the strike, saying he knew something of this sort was going to happen and hoped that it ends very quickly. India's National Security Advisor Ajit Doval spoke to his US counterpart and Secretary of State Marco Rubio after the strikes, briefing them about India's military operation. Pakistan NSA Asim Malik also spoke to US NSA and Secretary of State Rubio on the strikes by the Indian Armed Forces. Pakistan opened heavy artillery fire along the line of control in Jammu and Kashmir. According to defense sources, the Pakistan Army suffered casualties in the strong Indian retaliation. 3 civilians were killed in Jammu and Kashmir in indiscriminate firing by Pakistan. Airlines in India have issued a flight advisory for several airports, saying airports in Dharamshala, Leh, Jammu, Srinagar and Amritsar will remain closed until further notice. In Pakistan, Lahore and Sialkot airports have been closed for the next 48 hours. Punjab Chief Minister has declared a state of emergency across the entire province. Indian Defence Minister Rajnath Singh spoke to chiefs of the Army, Navy and Air Force following the overnight missile strike on 9 terror targets in Pakistan and Pakistan-occupied Jammu and Kashmir. The Indian Army will address the media on the execution of the Operation Sindoor against the Pakistani terror groups at 10 a.m. today. This is what's transpired so far. Over to you now, Jyotsna.
Well, let's get you the latest reactions that are coming in from the families of the victims of the Pahalgam terror attack. Now listen to this.
त्याच्यासाठी मी त्यांचे आभार मानेल, कारण त्यांच्या सगळ्या लेकींचं सिंदूर त्या दहशतवाद्यांनी मिटवून टाकलेलं आणि आज त्यांनी तेच नाव दिलं. मला ते नाव वाचल्यानंतर अतिशय डोळ्यात पाणी आलं की त्यांना जाणीव आहे आमची.
तो बहुत धन्यवाद करती हूँ, उनसे बहुत थैंक यू कहती हूँ कि उन्होंने मेरे पति की मौत का बदला लिया है. जिस तरीके से हमारे पूरे परिवार को उन पे विश्वास था, उन्होंने उसी तरीके से जवाब देके हमारे विश्वास को कायम रखा है. एंड आई एम रियली थैंकफुल.
Now, of course, these are the reactions coming in from the families of the civilians that became victims of the terror attack in Pahalgam in April. Now, right after that, India hit back with precision strikes. And hours after India hit 9 sites in Pakistan and Pakistan-occupied Kashmir, targeting terrorist infrastructure there, Pakistani troops again resorted to sharp escalation of ceasefire violations along the line of control in the adjoining Poonch district in Jammu and Kashmir, which has killed 3 civilians. Now, meanwhile, while the small arms fire had been witnessed regularly in the wake of the Pahalgam terror attack, Wednesday night saw heavy artillery fire from the Pakistani side. Of course, with Indian armed forces striking 9 sites Pakistan-occupied Kashmir, most international flights overflying Pakistan has been diverted away, and as well as many flights in Leh, Srinagar, Dharamshala have also been closed. Meanwhile, Defence Minister Rajnath Singh had spoken to the chiefs of all the 3 armed forces on phone. Meanwhile, the Cabinet Committee on Security will be meeting later in the day. All right, well, joining us is also our correspondent Dhamjot Kaur, joining us from New Delhi, and Idris, our special correspondent, joining us from Srinagar. First of all, Idris, let's come to you now. We talked about how the reactions have been on ground. If you could just quickly bring us the latest updates from the ground, and what is the situation that you see?
Well, the main updates from the Kashmir division as well as in the Jammu remain that all the schools, especially close to the line of control and international border, have been closed down. Majority of the schools in the Jammu division are shut for today, while as in the Kashmir division in North Kashmir's Baramulla, Kupwara, Handwara and Bandipora, all these districts, most of the schools have been closed for today as well. In Srinagar, schools that are close to the Srinagar airport have also been closed for a day. We've seen that especially on the line of control and as well as the international border, Pakistan has been continuously breaking the ceasefire from the last many hours now. It started exactly after the India carried out the attack on the 9 locations, installations of the terrorists. After that, we've seen just right after 2 o'clock, we saw that Pakistan resorted to ceasefire violations at multiple locations in North Kashmir on the international border as well as in Jammu division. We've seen that 3 people were killed in the Poonch sector of the Jammu division, where we did see that Pakistan not only targeted the security installations but also the civilian population living close to the line of control. In the similar case in the Kupwara district, we also saw Pakistan resorting to ceasefire violations and also targeting the houses of the civilians. We also saw the visuals of how the civilian houses basically were attacked by the artillery and they completely burned down due to the ceasefire violations. At every location we are being told that Indian Army is retaliating, but on the other side the Indian Army is also making sure that the civilian population is basically shifted from these areas to the safer areas. During the night we saw them shifting them to the bunkers specially made in the areas which are very close to the line of control. But with the first light, we've seen that people are slowly moving out of these places. On the other hand, Srinagar Airport, Jammu Airport, Leh Airport, as well as some of the airports in the northern part of India have been shut for today as well for the commercial flights. We're also being told that Srinagar Airport has been taken over by the Indian Air Force at the moment. So in Kashmir, the situation looks very tense. People just coming out of their houses looking very tense. We don't see a lot of people on the road as of now, although this is the time when most of the people, and especially kids, go to school, but we don't see many of the school buses out on the roads as well. It seems that people have opened up their television sets and mobile phones and they've got to know about the situation, and that's why they're keeping to their houses.
Right, as there's tense situation there, we're also awaiting a briefing that's going to take place at 10 a.m. today. Let me come to you, Dhamjot, now. Meanwhile, we await the press briefing. We also have rehearsals for civil defense drills underway in several places. If you could just bring us the latest on that.
Well, you're right, Jyotsna. In fact, until this strike was carried out by the Indian Armed Forces, plans were very much in place to conduct mock drills across the entire country today at over 155 locations. But it is yet to be determined whether or not the plans have changed, because just a few moments ago we saw visuals and footage coming in from different parts of India, from Uttar Pradesh and from Bihar, where trial runs were being carried out. They're still being carried out right now to prepare for certain mock drills, certain preparation for any kind of contingency, blackouts that certain areas will see in preparation for any potential escalation or warlike scenario. So preparation is still ongoing. Things seem to be on track. There seems to be no apparent change in those plans as of now. However, it is advised that we will be waiting for the Cabinet Security Meet and the joint press briefing between the Ministry of External Affairs and the Indian Armed Forces to see if the situation changes at all. Given the nature of what's happening, Jyotsna, we saw shortly after the Indian Armed Forces carried out a targeted strike on 9 terror infrastructure spots in Pakistan and PoK. We saw the Pakistani military escalating the situation at the line of control, as Idris has also been mentioning since the wee hours of morning, and how they've been carrying out escalated crossfire across the LOC. Now, given this situation, given the escalation, given how locals will now be dealing with this situation of uncertainty and heightened tension in Jammu and Kashmir, in other bordering villages of Rajasthan and Punjab, it remains to be seen if security officials and the central government takes any decision in order to change the plan or keep it intact, as it may in fact help the civil population of the country to in fact be better prepared in case the days ahead are slightly more uncertain. Jyotsna?
Absolutely. Now, we're also being joined by our Assistant Editor of Foreign Affairs, Siddhant. We just heard Dhamjo talking about how India is also being preparing on the other side. You're in New Delhi, the capital. A press briefing is to take place at 10 a.m. If you could just bring in some more reactions from the capital, and if you've seen any kind of security situation in Delhi, and what kind of environment do you assess there in New Delhi?
Well, in next few hours, we will see the Indian side briefing the world media about the strikes that have taken place, and the magnitude of strikes, the world is still waking up to it. In fact, India is waking up to the strikes, because these are not just minor strikes at line of control and in Pakistan-occupied Kashmir. These are strikes deep within Pakistani territory, targeting terror camps. The list is out, the terror camps who have been targeted. But we know that there have been a lot of commentary coming from Pakistan as well. There is I would say a fog of what next, how the situation will pan out. Will there be a deterioration, or will there be a de-escalation? We know that the American side has commented so far. We are still waiting for other capitals to wake up and react as well to the developments that have happened, especially from other P5 member countries, Russia, UK, France and China. But these are developments which are still happening so far, as we have been pointing out since we asked, that India has taken out and carried out strikes within Pakistani territory and Pakistan-occupied Kashmir. And that is a clear message by the Indian side on the issue of terrorism. The Indian External Affairs Minister has, of course, commented as well, saying that there should be zero tolerance against terrorism. We have also seen diplomatic community in Delhi waking up to the developments. In fact, the Israeli ambassador is the first ambassador to comment on the development. Let me read out the statement that has been issued by the Israeli side this morning. And this is a significant statement, I would say, because the Israeli side from day one has been saying that they will be supporting India. So this is the statement. Israel supports India's right for self-defense. Terrorists should know that there is no place to hide from their heinous crimes against innocents. So Israel becomes the second country to react, and full support to India. But all in all, what will be the reaction of the international community? That is something that will be closely watched. We know that there are visuals emerging from Pakistan over the damage that has been done. We also know that the airspace has been closed for Pakistan and in northern India as well. Schools have been shut in border areas of India. In fact, today Delhi was expected to witness, along with the rest of the country, mock drills to prepare for eventualities, but that hasn't happened so far. It clearly looks like things will be for suspension for some time. In fact, the Indian Prime Minister was expected to travel to Europe next week, to Netherlands, Norway and to Croatia. I do not think so that under present conditions circumstances visit will now take place. But diplomatically and military, both sides, the developments will be awaited. On the diplomatic front, we know that the reactions of the global community will be awaited. On the military front, what next is a big question. There are a lot of misinformation also coming from the Pakistani side as well. But all in all, here in Delhi, so far it's a calm morning. People are waking up to the development.
All right, Siddhant. Of course, we'll go back to Idris now. Tensions have been, it has been a tense situation in Srinagar for quite some time, and we just hear that schools have been shut. What kind of security situation are you picking up from there as of now?
Well, security has been put on high alert right after the Pahalgam attack, whether it's the Srinagar city or the other districts of Jammu and Kashmir. There have been multiple operations that have been carried out by security forces across various districts, especially in the south of Kashmir, in Anantnag district, where the attack had taken place. There were 4 major combing operations of the security forces already on in the forest area of Pahalgam, where security forces still believe that the terrorists who carried out the Pahalgam attack are still hiding. They've cornered them from all the 4 sides and are carrying out the combing operation there. On the other side, we've also seen how the line of control from the last 13 days has been volatile. There's been ceasefire violation every single day from the Pakistani army side. We were thinking that they're basically giving an indication that they are alert on the borders. That was the indication Pakistan army was sending through these ceasefire violations in the last 12 days. But they were carrying on with them. But today, after India basically carried out the attack with precision, it was right after that at around 2 o'clock, Pakistan again broke the ceasefire violation on the 13th consecutive night, not at one place but multiple places across the Kashmir division as well as in the Jammu region. And this time not with small arms but with heavy artillery. On the other hand, they've also, what they did this time was that not only target the Indian armed forces bunkers and posts, but also the civilian population living across the line of control and international border. We've seen that Indian Army and border security forces have continuously been retaliating to these escalations by the Pakistan army on the border. But since Pakistani army has targeted the civilian population in Jammu, where 3 people were killed, as well as in northern part of Kashmir in Kupwara, where there's been a lot of damage to the houses, although the people were evacuated from those places before the shelling started. But all the houses in those areas close to the line of control completely burned down due to the heavy shelling from the Pakistani side. So a lot of tension right now all across Jammu and Kashmir. People really waiting that whether this would convert into something or there would be more escalation. If Pakistan really escalates this, then India is left with no choice but to retaliate in a bigger way, and that could actually mean a war. And nobody, at least in these bordering areas in Kashmir and Jammu, wants that, because they're the ones who are basically in the center of it.
Absolutely. Now, there are tensions in Srinagar. Then, of course, we're looking at reactions that we just got from the world that our assistant editor of foreign affairs just briefed us upon. Kamjot, if I can just come to you, if you could just brief us on the reactions that you have picked up from India.
Well, Jyotsna, political parties are beginning to now react on social media and are putting out their official statement of how they unilaterally back the operation carried out by the Indian Armed Forces. When we first heard of the attack at around 1:45 a.m. Earlier this morning, we had quick reactions coming in from the Defence Minister, followed by other top leadership of the Indian government. But soon as the day broke, as more and more, leadership of the country woke up to the news of this, of Operation Sindoor being carried out successfully, we're seeing, the similar mood, a similar mindset, a similar statement being put on across party lines. Everyone is saying the same thing. They're proud of the targeted attacks that the Indian Armed Forces have carried out. There is a zero tolerance policy that India follows when it comes to terrorism, especially cross-border terrorism, and that the opposition and all parties stand in unison behind the government. In fact, the party president for Congress, Mallikarjun Kharge, just tweeted a few minutes back where he said that national unity and solidarity is the need of the hour, and the Indian National Congress stands with our armed forces. Our leaders have shown the path in the past, and national interest is supreme for us. So clearly there is no divide when it comes to political unity in India, Jyotsna. That is clear for sure. Other parties also from the opposition bloc have also tweeted in the same breath. Of course, we've seen this stance of unity taken moments after the Pahalgam terror attack happened on April 22nd. We saw leaders across political lines back the government and call for unified action to be taken militarily and diplomatically against Pakistan-backed terror groups and terrorists that carried out this dastardly attack in Jammu and Kashmir. So at this moment, this is where things stand, Jyotsna. Of course, we're waiting to hear in terms of developments that come in after the cabinet security meeting and the cabinet meeting that Prime Minister Narendra Modi chairs with members from the Indian government. So more developments, more statements are expected. But in the past few hours, ever since the targeted strike was carried out, it has only been a unified front that India has put forward politically. Jyotsna?
All right, absolutely, Dhanjot. And of course, let's come back. Let me go back to Idris now. Now, this all has, of course, escalated after the Pahalgam attack. We know that India was also investigating and trying to probe into what actually happened and kind of find the terrorists who actually conducted the whole terrorist attack. If you could just brief us upon what has been the latest news on that part so far.
Well, Jyotsna, we've seen from the last many days now, security forces are carrying out the combing operation in south of Kashmir. There are 4 operations that security forces have been carrying out in the Anantnag district only. Let me tell you that it's a joint operation of the Indian Army, Jammu and Kashmir Police and paramilitary forces along with their commando wings. At one of the places, they did come in close contact with the terrorist group, where there was a brief gunfire for a while. But after that, again, the terrorists managed to escape from that spot. But the whole area, the whole forest area has been cordoned off from all the 4 sides. Now, security forces have been using helicopters, drones to basically locate those terrorists. But we also have to understand that these terrorists are very well trained, especially in the mountain warfare. We've seen in the past 6 months, there have been multiple attacks in the Jammu division where the terrorists basically carried out attacks on security forces and also managed to go back into the forest areas of the Jammu division. These are the same the terrorists who came from that side of the mountain range towards the South Kashmir and carried out this attack in the Pahalgam. Security forces basically have been in the last 1 week trying to break the over-the-ground worker network in Jammu and Kashmir. There were around 2,500 people detained by the security forces for questioning. A lot of them still with the security agencies. They're being interrogated. We have also seen how around 90 over-the-ground workers were slapped by under Public Safety Act as well as under UAPA. So basically the focus of the security agencies, especially the investigative agencies, has been to break the over-the-ground worker network. We've been told that around 15 over-the-ground workers were in constant touch with the terrorist group. They were the ones who helped them with the logistics, as well as a recce of 3 spots only in Pahalgam, Baisaran, Adu and Betab Valley. These were the 3 places which were on the target of the terrorists. But later on, they decided that Baisaran would be easier for them because there was least presence of security forces in the area, while as it was also easier for them to escape from the forest region. While as the combing operation of security forces to look for those terrorists is still continuing.
Absolutely. Now, of course, thank you so much, Idris, for bringing us that. Now, of course, news and just coming in, all the 3 service chiefs, that is CDS and NSA, were present in the MOD war room till 3 a.m. Now, this precision strike that we call on terror targets, this has been taking place since wee hours today. And we just got to know that all the chiefs were present in the war room since 3 a.m. This operation launched by India, Operation Sindoor, struck 9 terrorist sites in Pakistan and Pakistan-occupied Kashmir. Let me come back to Dhanjot now. Yeah, right now, we just heard that all the chiefs were there in the war room. If you could just brief us on that and how all this took place. And this was while India was also preparing for the mock drills.
Well, that's pretty much the point, Jyotsna. While the attention of the entire world, the attention of India's neighbor and also normal citizens of the country was on, the entire mock drill plan that was supposed to unfold today, the Indian Armed Forces went ahead and carried out a precision strike on 9 terror hotspots in Pakistan and parts of Pakistan-occupied Kashmir when nobody was expecting it. Now, we've seen how the entire scenario has unfolded in the past 2 weeks, where Pakistan kept making statements and claiming that, well, there's a strike coming from the Indian side with